Primates particularly are curious, so where you once saw a leaf, suddenly there will be a pair of eyes peeking out, and I have to be quick and turning the camera in every direction. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw one single male who I thought, oh my gosh, he's an old guy. Look at him. He had bad hair. He'd lost his right eye. He wasn't very big. He was very skinny, and he had no use of his right hand. He lived on the fringes of the community, kind of like an outcast, and instantly he became my favorite photo subject. He had a lot of character, but I also thought by taking photographs of him that people could see what changes need to be made in the forest so this species can survive. My name is Julie Larson-Mahar, and I am the staff photographer for the Wildlife Conservation Society. Most recently, I traveled to Uganda, a landlocked country in East Africa, where we have a major conservation program. I traveled in Uganda with Andy Plumtree. We were headed for Budongo, one of the last remaining intact forests in Uganda, and it is not open to tourists, but in fact a science research center where a particular group of chimpanzees have been studied for 20 years. Our research assistant, Gerson, that accompanied us in the forest, had been there since the beginning. We went out in the forest early in the morning, and Andy Plumtree said to me, it's a possibility they could be very close or very, very far away. There were signs on the forest floor that the chimpanzees were near. They had been feeding in a fruit tree, and there were big pieces of leftover fruit and seeds carpeting the ground. Then when we looked up, we could see fingers and toes and little pieces of hair sticking over the edges of the limbs. One group in particular, they were a little shy. The youngest one was tucked into the middle one, and the oldest one kind of took the sentry position. We stood very quietly and just waited and watched. They soon became very comfortable, particularly the youngest one, and pretty soon there was some separation between the three, and then the little one started showing off, hanging from branches, and they started mugging for the camera, and I almost felt they were putting on a show just for us. One of the things that affected me the most were the chimps that had snare injuries. They reach in, their hands get caught, their feet get caught. Some are taken off completely, or some are life scars forever. Nearly 30% of the chimpanzees in the Budongo Forest have suffered some kind of a snare injury, which is probably representative of communities among the less than 5,000 chimpanzees left in Uganda. Chimpanzees are endangered, and I could see why after the time I had spent there. The forest where they lived was under pressure from all of the agriculture that was around the surrounding lands. There were sugarcane fields, factories, houses were popping up, roads were cutting through things, logging was going on. A lot of the precious woods like mahogany were gone, and I wondered how these communities could survive or continue to prosper when so much activity was going on and not allowing for any movement back and forth. As we drove down the road, which was separating Budongo, and there were sugarcane fields on both sides of us, Andy mentioned that there was a community of less than 10 left on the right-hand side of the road.
In many of the forests, they're very few in number, and so we're now looking at how to link the different forests together by protecting existing riverine forest and other corridors to provide alleyways through which chimpanzees could move between the different forests.
The chimpanzees need corridors. They need intact forests so that there's genetic diversity, so that communities can expand and grow, so that the chimpanzee communities can find food sources. One of the things the Wildlife Conservation Society is doing is teaching alternative livelihoods. Alternative livelihoods might be better farming methods, markets where they can sell products, things that will give them an income. WCS also hopes to sell carbon offsets on the international carbon market. This could preserve the landscape while providing a much-needed source of income for local communities. Every time I come back from the field, I have this sense of we have too much. We need to give back. We need to do something. We need to act. We need to act now. I think that people don't also realize the level of poverty outside of our own country that exists and affects a lot of the decisions people make about their own lifestyle and what surrounds them. I don't consider what I do wildlife photography, but conservation photography. So I have to spend the time figuring out what I need to take away from a scene that will make it real for someone who sees this back in the United States or other parts of the world.